You're listening to From Our Lens, a podcast for photographers and brides where we dive into all things weddings.
Whether you're a pro behind the lens or a bride-to-be, we've got you covered.
Join in on the conversation and take it from the gals who have been to a wedding or two.
Grab your camera or your wedding planner and tune in for our hot wedding takes. Let's focus on your forever. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. If you're on video, we're in a little bit of a different location this time. We live in different places, so when we can record together and be in one episode, that's awesome. But for the most of the time, we can't. So we're on our own this week.
Welcome. If you are watching, you can see that I don't have very much up right now, but I'm in the middle of making a studio. So this is the beginning. I have some cute stuff up here, but I'm excited to show you guys once it's done. But yeah, I'm making the most of it right now.
Yeah, and I'm in my chaotic office here.
Yeah, I love it though. It's not chaotic. It's a chaotic, beautiful mess.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so we have some exciting topics coming to you guys this week. We kind of wanted to touch upon photography aesthetic. But before we get going, I think we'll do like just a little recap of what we've been up to. So Jordan, like it's slow season. How are you doing?
I know. I love this time of year. I also hate it. It's nice to just like reset because it's not as busy for us. Everyone's cold. No one wants pictures and it's not wedding season anymore. But I love it. I need this time to recharge. So I've just been making my little studio, slowly plugging away, and it's tax season. So unfortunately I'm dealing with that. Everybody hates that, but I'm doing that. And it's like wedding season is creeping up, so I'm getting excited for it, and I'm kind of prepping, doing all the back end work, as you know. But what are you up to?
Pretty much the same thing. Like we're, at this time of year, brides are booking, so you're doing calls and planning engagement sessions and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, I've been doing some painting in my house, and
it looks so good.
Thank you. Yeah, just kind of freshening up, cleaning, organizing, just getting gear ready for. Yeah, it's coming up quick this next wedding season, so I'm very excited and ready to get going.
Does your season start soon? Like, I feel like mine's starting really late this year, but like I'm happy about it because I get a little summer before my wedding season starts, so I get to trip and all that good stuff.
When do you start?
July, really. Like I have a wedding in June, but I get all of June to myself, which I'm really excited about because usually we don't get that, so I'm stoked.
No, totally. I think I start my first ones end of May, which is nice, but I think, and then from there I have 3 in June. That's kind of, I'm starting May, but it's nice to get, that time in the spring to do those engagement sessions to, start doing just like spring sessions. Nobody really likes shooting in the winter. So it's coming up. I'm very excited, but also it always just comes and it's like, boom, you're all in. So,
and then after it ends, it's like November and we're like, oh my God, it's so sad. It's over.
Yeah. And it's like, where did it go? Especially when you're doing weddings every weekend, you just get in this groove of summer and just whew, it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's insane, but I'm ready. I don't know about you, but I have some awesome clients this year.
Yes.
I feel like I do every year.
I was going to say every year. No, but it's fun. It's fun to to just meet everyone, all the new
totally. Especially when it's people you jive with and
I know, me too. I'm excited. I have some fun forest weddings and stuff this year. Some helicopter stuff planned.
What?
Yes,
that's exciting.
I'm so excited. Counting down
elopement style or what?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sick.
Good. I can't give it away too much because you guys got to be excited when you see it on my Instagram. But.
Yeah. I did that once and it was pouring rain and we almost didn't go up and it was just the craziest. We could only shoot for 10 minutes because we got this little cloud that we had to go through the clouds, I guess, and went up and we shot for 10 minutes and then went back down, but it was epic. So cool.
I love that. So fun.
Yeah. So aesthetic.
I'm so excited
Jordan,
for this episode.
What is aesthetic to you? Okay. Let's get the definition here first.
So officially, this is the Google definition, so it's pretty dramatic, you guys, but aesthetic is a set of principles underlying and guiding the work of a particular artist or artistic movement. So let's take that with a grain of salt. Because aesthetic to me is really like, if in like simple terms, I think it's just the overall vibe and feeling that you want your wedding to be, or your event to be, whatever it is. Like I think about it first in a personal sense, because I think about my aesthetic and what I like. And that kind of drives my aesthetic of everything around me. So it's really like just like the things you love, like, no, but it's really like how you are, like your vibe, your overall like feeling of your personality, I think.
And with aesthetic, I think you really have to, especially with your wedding, you have to think of the two of you and who you are, what you like, what your home looks like. You know, like a wedding, sometimes people get really caught up in what everyone else is doing and the trends, but I think it's also important, like you can totally do that and that's fine, but making sure it's like your aesthetic, your vibe, your color palette, you know, like
you made a good point about like thinking about you two together. Cause I think a lot of the time, like, let's be real, it's usually us girls planning the wedding because the guys don't care. I mean, sometimes they do.
And to be honest, it's hard to get them involved sometimes too. It's not just that the girls want it all about them. It's like pulling teeth to get the guy to have some input.
No, but I think when you start to plan it about you two and not just what you like as a bride, that helps them be into it more, because they realize that, oh, like, it is about us. It's not just about what you like. And I think that's why guys sometimes maybe aren't as into it as us, I guess, because they're like, oh, well, this is girly stuff or whatever. But it really doesn't have to be.
And some guys kind of think like weddings are about the girl. It's like what she wants. But I think it all kind of comes back to like, why are you having a wedding? You're having a wedding because you're joining your lives together. You're getting married. You're starting something new. So I think it's important to bring both of you into it and incorporate that.
Yeah. And there's definitely ways. Like, I know everyone's like, oh, well, I don't want to ask him because his aesthetic is like gamer boy. Like, that's his vibe. And it's like, no, like, you don't have to incorporate that. There are definitely things that he will love that are not that. And it's just having that conversation. But there is ways to incorporate both of you guys.
Yeah, totally. So what do you think, like, when people talk wedding aesthetic, what comes to mind for you?
I mean, when I think of wedding aesthetic, like, there's always like the very general ones that everybody thinks of, like from Pinterest, where you're like, okay, rustic aesthetic. Oh my God, I can't talk. Or like dark and moody. It could be in its own aesthetic, or Western and rustic, I guess, kind of go hand in hand. But Western right now is very light and airy, stuff like that. And I think people, they think about the general ones, and then they're like, they pick one of those and then they go with it. But you really, like, your aesthetic doesn't have to have a name.
No,
it doesn't really have to have, like, it doesn't have to be anyone else's, and it can be your own. And that's the beauty of it.
And honestly, I think it's cooler when you have your own.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you see all the Pinterest weddings, and that's awesome. And obviously, like, we both get ideas off Pinterest. Like, it's...
Yeah. And everybody does.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying, like, you can't use that. But to kind of pick your own vibe and, like, mixing aesthetics, too. Like, you could do light and airy and moody. I don't know. Like, there's so many different things.
Maybe not light and airy and not dark.
Light and airy rustic, or dark and moody, like, modern, classic, you know?
Yeah. I think... like, using Pinterest to your advantage, and not just using it to find like just the basic, but like, I always suggest like making a mood board. And I know everyone makes their Pinterest boards, but I like to call it a mood board instead of a Pinterest board, because I think that it's you put all your ideas in instead of just the, like, it's a mood board to me, because I'll go onto Pinterest and I'll like look up art to help me mood board. And instead of just looking up wedding trends and finding the top pins, like, I think about myself, and I'll like make a mood board for my room I'm decorating. Like, I know this isn't weddings, but I'll go through and I'll be like, okay, like, what do I want to feel when I go into this room? And then I try and find just stuff that gives me that feeling, and then not necessarily taking that directly and putting it in my room, but it helps me make a mood.
Oh, I love that. That's such a good idea. And especially with Pinterest, I think it can be hard because you get all these pins and there's millions of things. But with a mood board, like if you need to even like print out things, but you can go through and like say you see a picture and it's a candle at dinner and it's cozy and elegant, and put that in your mood board. And then like it doesn't necessarily have to be the exact look of what you're doing, but the vibe and the feeling. And then you can pull things from that.
Yeah, honestly, when I'm mood boarding, I don't put them in my mood board so that I can copy them. I put them in there because I want to copy the feeling of what that picture or whatever it is gives me. And even like just take one part of it, or even like in my mood board, if I'm like driving around and I'm listening to a song and I'm like, wow, like this is like, I want to capture this feeling and like turn it into something. And like, I'm not planning a wedding, but like whatever it is I'm doing, like I'll like screenshot the photo and I'll put it in there, because when I'm looking through my mood board, I'll be like, oh yeah, like I wanted to capture this feeling of this song.
And then you listen to the song and you brainstorm ideas from the song that make you, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, all that kind of stuff is a good, helpful tools to picking your aesthetic. And yeah, like I think honestly, like definitely like making your own aesthetic is the key, because my favorite compliment is like, wow, like that is so you. Like, and it's not like they're like, oh wow, that's so rustic, I love it. No, it's you. And that's how you can get that by thinking. And honestly, it's a lot of thought. Like I sit and I mood board every night almost. Like it's something that helps me just be really sure about everything. And yeah, like it's a good way to do it.
And it's such a good way to like bring out creativity and really think outside of the box, because you're not looking at everyone else's wedding or everyone else's thing. You're like, how do I want this to be me? And pulling ideas from different places and making it. That's how you get the most unique wedding or the most unique session, like doing something that's you and pulling ideas from other places.
I definitely try not to go through just wedding stuff on Pinterest. Like I really try, like if I was planning my wedding and say like you really love a certain movie and that vibe, I would go through and I would look up at Pinterest, and I actually use, this is my little hot tip. But when I'm like Pinteresting, I don't just type in, if I'm looking for like, oh God, I don't know. Like if I'm looking for summer session inspiration or whatever. Yeah. I don't just type in summer photo shoot inspiration. I type in summer aesthetic. Yeah. And you get photos that capture feeling, and they're not just photographers' photos. You get like other things. You get clips from movies in your Pinterest. Mm-hmm. You get like screen grabs from other things. You get like pictures that are people like artists and stuff. Yeah. And that, like, just the word aesthetic, putting that into Pinterest, like, I don't know what, like, magic it is, but, like, it gives you, like, you could literally just screenshot that, and that could be your mood board, because it's just, like, you get the vibe more than just, like, the stereotypical Pinterest photos. So if you're looking to make your mood board, use the word.
I think that's so smart. Even, I know, like, I've heard this from, like, really big wedding photographers. They always say they never look at other photographers' work. And I think you can bring that back into like planning your wedding. Like, don't look at other weddings, look at other things. So photographers will look at films. They'll look at like other types of photography. So like they'll look at Vanity Fair and Vogue and like more, just something that's not the same as everyone else. Like you're not doing the same photo shoot everyone's done. You're not doing the same wedding. You're looking at other forms of art to bring that into your own work or your own wedding.
That's really true, because when you start just looking at other, like if you're looking at wedding photos and you're like, this is exactly what I want, like this is what I want for my wedding day. I'm not trying to be sad or about this, but I just mean you're almost setting yourself up for failure, because your wedding is not going to be exactly like that wedding. You aren't the same person as that wedding you're looking at. They have a completely different aesthetic than you. You might it's very personal to them, those wedding pictures. And it's really hard to replicate the exact thing.
You're not going to get it.
No, because it's going to be different. You're different people. You're different, like you're different places. You have different photographers. Yeah. I think when you just compare what you want to other weddings and other photographers, I think it's hard. Because you're not gonna, you can definitely like get the vibe, like you can plan it to be like that, but it's not going to be the same.
No, because they're different people, they're different locations, different times of day. And if you're trying so hard to create that exact same pose where he's like, his arms are wrapped around her, he's whispering, you're not going to get it. And you're going to be frustrated with yourself because you're trying to copy this exact look, but you have to do it naturally.
Instead of just planning it naturally for what you guys like, making it similar. If that's the same vibe, it'll probably be similar, and you'll get better photos when you're not just trying to replicate. When you're just trying to be authentic, that's what's going to happen.
And that's the same with your wedding. If you're trying to do this Pinterest perfect wedding, you're not going to get it and you're going to be disappointed. And if you're focusing on that, it's just not going to feel like
No, let's not focus on we don't want a Pinterest perfect wedding. We want a perfect wedding for you.
Yes.
And that doesn't have to be like, there's always going to be the Pinterest weddings.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of those weddings, like, they stress the whole time. You don't want that. And they're beautiful, but you don't know, like, to be fair, a lot of the Pinterest weddings they're looking at, I think a lot of them, especially when I'm looking,
yeah,
like, it's done by a wedding planner. Like, it's meticulously styled. And, like, let's be real, most of us planning your wedding, you're doing it yourself. Exactly. You don't have the resources or the money. A lot of those weddings are like very, very like, and I mean, if you have the money, like, yes, go for it and get it. Like, I love that for you, but like realistically, most people aren't. And that's fine. Like, there's nothing absolutely wrong with that, but it's really hard to replicate when you don't have a team to help you do it. Yeah.
And I think it all just comes down to, we can both say from the bottom of our heart that our favorite weddings were the weddings where the couple was like, this is us. This is our vibe. This is who we are. And then everything just like comes together and it's not forced and it feels natural and their colors are their aesthetic. And you can just fully feel that it's them.
Oh yeah.
And not put on to be something else, you know?
Oh yeah. My favorite weddings are the ones where you go to like the dinner and everything that made there is like they made it themselves and it's beautiful because they put the heart and soul into it. Yeah. And they love it even more. Yeah.
And then I guess like with aesthetic, how do we, like, let's talk about how aesthetic kind of incorporates with photography. So like you have your aesthetic, you're like, for example, say it's black tie, black and white, everything, very, very formal, very modern. What kind of photography aesthetic, how do you find that?
Yeah. Well, I think people do, like, I think we talked about this in the other episode, maybe a little bit, but I think a lot of the times people planning a wedding, you're like, oh shoot, I just have to find a photographer. And then they just find one. And that's that. But I think if you're really trying to curate an aesthetic for your wedding and like a vibe, like black tie, like you said, for example, you definitely want a photographer that matches that. And like, as you know, there's plenty of photographers out there. There's lots of us. We're around every corner. We're creeping. We're everywhere. But that's what makes it so special though, because everyone's different. Me and you are different. Every bride is different. Every groom is different. And so having options instead of just picking the first photographer that comes to your head, especially if you're trying to curate a look, is what you need to do. So, I mean, if it was me, I mean, I'm not planning a wedding, but if it was me, listen, we all dream about it though, so I definitely know what I would do. Exactly. But if it was me, I would look at my mood board, look at my aesthetic vibe that I want my wedding to be, and I would go and I'd make myself a little list of all the photographers that match that. And I'd look at their portfolios and I'd say, okay, like this lady is really into exploring the mountains and like going into the forest. And I'm like, I love that. Not saying it's not beautiful, but is that my black tie vibe? No. And she might do a great job if I hire her to come do my black tie wedding, which is 100% fine if I wanted to do that. But maybe I would want somebody more that does more of those luxury black tie weddings, that is more into it. I mean, this is the thing, as photographers, we love doing any wedding, like, right? Me and you love to go to any, but we all have our preferences. And I feel like I do a better job when I'm like really vibing with the wedding I'm at. Yeah. I feel like I do a pretty good job regardless of where I am. Yeah. But like when we get the weddings that we're like super passionate about, it makes us work a little harder, I think.
That's why photographers have a niche.
Yeah.
And if you're doing the black tie and you hire a photographer that's hiking in the mountains and is adventurous, they're not going to shoot a wedding like a downtown Calgary photographer would, someone who specializes in that. They know the areas. They know like a formal, elegant black tie kind of photographer is going to know downtown city of their area. And a adventurous mountain elopement photographer is going to know. And their colors and their vibe also reflects that.
Yeah, and like the editing style that I use to edit like a mountain wedding wouldn't necessarily like look as great on a black tie wedding versus there is photographers that would edit a black tie wedding beautifully that would struggle going to the mountains and editing that.
Oh, totally.
Like it's just definitely like looking and finding a photographer that first of all shoots what you want. I think you definitely want to look for that. And you want to look for the editing style that you like and that matches your vibe, because you don't, I mean, I think that's a big one, because if you don't like the way their photos look, you're probably not going to like yours. And that's fine. That's just someone else's style.
Yeah. And I guess like another part of aesthetic that incorporates that. So yeah, with your photographer, you have the look and the location, but also personality. Personality is probably one of the biggest parts of your aesthetic. You think, oh, aesthetic, it might be for a wedding, like colors and location, but it's also the biggest part is personality. And when you're picking a photographer, you want the photographer's personality aesthetic to match yours, because if you're someone who's very introverted, you're shy, you're not very outgoing, you're like very reserved with your partner, you probably want a photographer like that. You don't want a photographer that's going to be like, jump in the air, make out with your partner.
Honestly, that's so true. So true. And I think people, that's why meeting and like talking with your photographer is so important.
Yes.
Because like that's something you wouldn't know until you meet them or have a shoot with them. And it's definitely like, it does like their personality sets the tone. If they walk into your wedding and you're like trying to have a nice, like relaxed morning, and they walk in there and they're popping champagne for you. Like, listen, those photographers, like I love being that photographer.
Yeah.
But like we love the big, huge party weddings.
Yeah.
Versus there's lots of beautiful photographers that are like more reserved, and then we'll just like kind of be on a fly on the wall.
And there's photographers who can do both. But I think if you want to party and you want to be crazy on your wedding day, you want a photographer that's fun, that will joke around, will be a good time. Like in that situation, you don't want the introverted, quiet photographer. You want someone that can like have fun with your bridal party and like, because you just overall you want to fit the personality, because then your photos reflect that. Because if the photographer is fun and crazy and you and your partner are fun and crazy in your bridal party, the photos are going to show that. But if they're quiet and introverted and your bridal party is crazy, you're not really going to get the same effect. And same with if you're a reserved, introverted person and your photographer is outgoing. So
like, it's weird to think, because it's something that you really wouldn't think affects your photos, but it does. It does. It definitely does. Yeah. No, 100%.
So I think that's one thing with aesthetic, that when it comes to a photographer, I think people don't think of that. They look at the photos and they're like, yep, good, whatever. They don't. And I think also that's why it's important for photographers to incorporate themselves into the brand. Because as a photographer, yes, your work is important. Yes, your skills are important, but honestly, your personality is equally as important. And that's like a big thing we learned in school is photographers, you have to show yourself. You can't just hide behind your camera on social media and stuff, because people need to know who you are, what you like, because that's a big selling point when
I love showing myself.
Yes, you're
and
so
listen,
good at it.
This is I'm not trying to be vain, honest to God. But like I found that as soon as I started showing myself off a little bit more on camera, as much as I hate it a little bit, because it is always awkward.
I hate it.
No. Listen, okay, don't call me out like that, Sarah. That's rude. But no, I think as soon as I kind of started showing that side of me off, which sometimes I'm not like that, but there are days that I'm always like fun and
I think 95% of the time, yeah.
but the people that like my people started coming to me, and now I've began to connect with clients that are like that, and that's honestly like what I love the most. So that it helps you out like all the way around. It helps your clients out, it helps your business out, and it helps everybody be happy in the end, because they know exactly what they're getting.
Yeah. And like, if you don't know that, then your photographer could show up and you're like, oh, you don't vibe with our group. You don't like, not saying anything bad against, any photographer thing, but I do think it's so important to have that portion of your wedding day, because your photographer is with you more than your significant other is on your wedding. Well, maybe not later on, but, and I guess like even photography is probably, it's not your biggest vendor, but like it's the one that's the most a part of your day. But the other vendors also really like are part of your aesthetic. Like, what do you think the other biggest vendor is that comes to aesthetic of your wedding?
Well, I think they're all pretty important, but I think if I had to pick one, I would go with probably where you choose to have your wedding.
Because
like
location?
A location,
venue.
Like where it is.
Yeah.
Because at the end, like when you're looking back at your photos,
Yeah.
What other than you two, because you two are obviously like the main focus of all your wedding photos because it's your wedding day. But other than that, what other thing is the main focus? And it is where you are. And like the aesthetic of your day is going to be very different if you choose to get married in a barn versus a fancy venue.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
that's number two or
I
number one,
think
probably,
that
actually.
I think that's pretty important because really like it's the background to every photo you take that day. And if you think about it too, like it's not just your photos you're thinking of. If you're thinking of your whole wedding aesthetic, like it's the whole wedding aesthetic of your guests' day, of your family's day, because they're also there with you. And it changes, like wherever you choose to have it changes that for them because they're all experiencing it too.
Yeah.
So that'll change what it looks like for everybody and how it feels for everybody.
Yeah.
And even like what your guests wear. Because like if you're doing a cabiny, like say that wedding you just were talking about in Golden, that was like, it was like a barn kind of reception and then like a bunch of log cabins, mountains. Yeah. People are going to dress very different as a guest to that wedding versus a black tie wedding or versus a farm wedding, you know, like that also your venue affects also like your guests, your bridesmaids, your wedding dress, your partner's outfits, like it kind of affects everything.
Yeah.
And you might pick a different photographer based on your venue. Like you said, if you're getting married in the mountains, probably going to pick a different photographer than downtown Calgary.
Yeah. But yeah, honestly, it's definitely something to think about because you guys want to enjoy your wedding venue too. You want to pick something that you guys like. And it definitely, I think it's like a big integral part of like what your wedding day is going to be.
I feel like that's probably one of the hardest things because it really does base your whole aesthetic of your wedding.
It does. And I mean, you're in a bigger spot than me where you live, but like where I'm at, like it's a very small area. And so we don't have a lot of different different spots to get married at. So a lot of the weddings here kind of have that same aesthetic and it's not by anybody's choice. It's just what we have, which is fair.
What about like things like hair and makeup? Do you think that has a big like
I think it's another one of those things that people think, oh, I just need to book a hair and makeup artist. And then they just pick one and they don't actually think about what they want to look like. Like there are some people that love the like nice, like natural, dewy, like makeup, but no makeup look.
Yeah.
And then there's people that love the like glam, dark, very bougie look, which is, I love them both.
But they're so different. And I think a lot of makeup artists can probably do both, but you really need to make sure you have someone that will do what you want. Especially, I always think of the girls who wear like hardly any makeup. And then on their wedding day, they hire a makeup artist and don't really look at their work. And then they're just like, and they're like, I don't look like me. So that really changes your aesthetic.
And again, it's like talking with your vendors and making sure you vibe with them personally.
Totally.
And making sure they know what you want and you know what they like they want to do. So you're on the same page.
And another big one, I think, is like even think of like your DJ. And I think most like DJs know how to read a room. They like, I think they do like questionnaires, but like even not getting a DJ is something that like could totally change the vibe of your wedding.
It does. I think this is
and not in a good way.
No, this is the thing. I think this is how you know if you have a good DJ. If you have a bad DJ, that's all people can remember. But if you have a good DJ, they won't say a word. And I mean, it's not like we're praising the DJ, but the reason they're not saying a word is because everything went good without a hitch. And he knew how to read the room and like be a personality and get people on the dance floor. But like when you have a bad DJ, everybody knows you had a bad DJ.
And if you want to party, your DJ will get everyone on the dance floor and they'll know how to make a party. And if they don't know how to do that, you're going to have like a dead dance floor.
No, but this is the thing. There's probably different DJs for like, if you want to have a party wedding, you get a party DJ. Yeah. There are DJs that like you tell them, listen, like we have kind of like a more formal crowd and they just want to do the waltz all night and that's fine.
And they'll play the classical, like slow music. But yeah, I think pretty much all the vendors, like you shouldn't just, oh, this is my top makeup artist or florist in my area, I'm going to pick them. You really should look at their work, look at past clients.
Cross-reference it with your mood board. You have your mood board set up. I think honestly, your mood board should be one of the first things you do. And I think a lot of people don't do this and they're like, then they start wedding planning and then people get overwhelmed because they're like, I don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. When I feel like if you make a mood board or something or have at least like a general idea of what you want it to look like, it helps you plan the rest of it. And it's like making a mood board can be like a week long thing. Like I said, like I mood board every night because
For months.
well, right? Like, but I think it gives you a really good base because it's so hard to find an aesthetic if you can't have it all in one place in your head a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so are there like any weddings that you've done that stick out to you that had like a very like noticeable aesthetic that was different?
Yes.
That you can think of? Like like a different theme, a different vibe?
Yeah, like I think because I'm in a smaller area, so when I have a lot of my local weddings here, like I said, I think people get stuck in the same aesthetic because we all have the same venues. So yeah, like there are weddings that come to my mind where people really have chosen to make it different. And it's shown because they think of a way to make it different, and they think of an aesthetic and they change that. I'm going to bring up my forest wedding from last year because, but because she really went with, again, I don't know if she did it on purpose. She probably did, but also it's just very them. So even if she didn't plan to do it, it worked out. But her whole wedding was very like, I'm going to say the word homegrown and like intimate and like unformal, but like in a very candid way and still in a beautiful, beautiful way. Like she made every single decoration.
Cute.
She made all the little art pieces. She grew her own flowers. Like she created a whole flower bed in her backyard, like multiple flower beds.
Yeah.
Made her own bouquet. Made all, like I think she thrifted all the tables and all the chairs, and everything was mismatched in a beautiful, perfect way, but like unperfectly. And it looked so beautiful, and everything was just very just real, and she did a really good job of it because I think she really put the work in to think about it instead of just picking things because she had to
and making it personal. And like I had one last fall and they did it like late October, so it wasn't orange, but like the leaves had all fallen. But this couple, they were just their whole wedding, it was like, we're getting married because we're in love. And like obviously they cared about all the things, but like they just did everything that was them. Like when they walked down the aisle, he surprised her with like his sister had a Super 8 camera and it was so cute. And then after the ceremony, they wanted to do like a picnic with just the two of them. And they did like extra private vows sitting there, and we did some pictures and video, and then they just wanted some time, just the two of them. But like they, their guests were all like playing games and whatever. And then they went back and their supper was like breakfast for supper because that was their favorite meal.
I had a wedding like that too. Ugh, it's the best. So good.
And just that whole wedding, all you could feel was like they're just so in love and they're getting married, and this is so them. Like everyone kept saying that, and that wedding just felt so like authentic and so real. And that's why anytime you can do something like that, just do it. Like this is your chance to do whatever you want. It's your pretty much only chance to make a whole event about you guys. And
like less wedding, more you, I think. Like stop thinking about wedding and just see, like a lot of people, they all like everyone, once you get engaged, I feel like everyone's like tagging you, every wedding thing they see, they're like, oh, tag her, she's engaged, tag her. And then they're like, oh, this is the stuff I get because it's just what you're seeing, instead of curating your look and like looking and searching out for the things you actually want.
You forget like why you're even doing it. And I think just like reminding yourself, we're having this party and the celebration because we're getting married. Like we're like two people love each other. It sounds so like cliche and dumb, but I think a lot of people forget that that's why you have a wedding. Yeah. You're like, it's about you guys.
No, it is. You're celebrating you guys. Yeah. So I also think I think people do that though, because I think a lot of people are used to not having the attention on them, and they're like, oh, I don't want to do this because it's like too much. Like it's too much. They don't want to feel like too much. So they just do what other people have done maybe. And it's like, no, I think in a certain way, use your, like there's a line also to this, but in a certain way, like use your wedding to be extra. Like don't be scared to be extra. This is the day to be extra, because it's literally your day.
And it's something that you do look back on for the rest of your lives. Like when your kids or your grandkids or whoever, like they look back, let's see your wedding photos. What'd you do for your wedding? Like, it's just like a moment of time that you never get back. And I think you just have to enjoy it. Do you? Yeah. But anything else do you think, like vendor wise? I think we kind of covered.
No, I think we covered the big ones. I mean, there's always like there's always little things I think that if it's you guys, definitely like do it. I don't even know if nothing's coming to my head.
Like decor, flowers, everything. Just make sure it fits. I think the big thing that our takeaway is for everyone is like mood board, like get a vibe, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like a wedding, like complete mood board. Just get pieces of like, I like this time of year. I like this time of day. I like these kind of trees and, you know, like different things, different colors, different whatever. And then look at it and say, okay, this is who we are. This is what we like. Let's take this. Oh, we're going to do orange and yellow as our colors, or, you know, like blues or purples, like whatever it is.
Colors is actually something we didn't talk about, but I think that's a really big
colors
one.
is one of the biggest ones. And people are kind of like, it really was muted tones and like fall colors almost for a long time. Like that was the big trend. And now vibrant colors are coming back. And I think like, you know, trends are trends and go with your own aesthetic, but it's kind of fun seeing different colors because everyone's been so muted, which is pretty, but
it is really fun. It's a big way to add personality to your wedding. And when we're talking about aesthetic, like, listen, you could, like, if you really want to, if you guys have two beautiful favorite colors and you want your wedding colors to be those colors, go for it. Like, or you can just look at the color wheel and find complementary colors that you both love.
Yeah. Or look at your home. What's your home decor?
That's true.
Like that's a really good reflection of you is like, oh, my home is all black and white and orange. Okay, maybe that's your wedding color scheme. Or you have lots of blues or greens. Like, I think that's a good way to kind of look at what you like.
But like if you think about it, like if you pick black and white as your wedding colors, it's definitely more of a luxury vibe. Yes. Right. And that's fine if that's the vibe you're going for. But if you're going for like a fun, quirky, like a happy, beautiful, like more real, not real, but more light and carefree wedding, if that's your idea of your wedding day, vibrant colors kind of lend more to that than just black and white. Yeah. As much as black and white goes with everything, and it's probably a really easy color to plan your wedding with. Yeah. But I think, but just try and think of colors that remind you of the vibe you're looking for.
Or even if you want like a really moody, dark, dramatic, romantic vibe, maybe you're going to do black and like forest green. You're not going to do yellow and like pastel pink. You know, if that's your vibe and your aesthetic for your wedding, you're going to pick colors that fit that vibe. Even like if you're having, you know, your fall wedding and you want that romantic, dark kind of thing, maybe you're going to do like reds and dark oranges, right? Like I think, or spring's more
of those bright pastel colors.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that's another big one for sure. But overall, just aesthetic, I think just reflect yourself.
Can't really replicate aesthetic. If you're trying to truly make it personal to you, there's really no right or wrong answer to aesthetic. Like there's no right thing for us to tell you to do, and there's no wrong thing for us to tell you to do because everyone's aesthetic is so different. So really that I think honestly, mood board, like you have to. And it's my favorite piece of advice to give people because it helps them make it personal.
Yeah. And it's even just a fun exercise. Like if you're like, I don't know if that'll work, try it and see what you think. Maybe your mood board is completely different than what you already have planned. And you're like, oh, maybe I should adjust things.
Yeah, 100%. Maybe you do a mood board and your man does a mood board and you guys
that'd be really fun.
It'd be a cute little date night actually, and then you turn the phones around and you say, okay, like this is, and then like maybe they're on the same page, maybe they're not, but I think also too that gives you a good way to mesh everything together.
Totally. But his could be lime green and black, and then you're like,
well, but then you have a little talk and you drink some wine and then it's all good.
You're like, can we do forest green instead of lime green? Because that's not really my vibe, even though.
Compromise.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like we've been talking for ages about it and I love it because I could literally keep talking about it forever.
And it's important because, I don't know, I think people kind of forget how like wedding planning, how big of a thing it is.
Yeah. No, I think doing it this way and like thinking about what you want it to be instead of just picking stuff brings the fun back into it and help honestly too. And it's not only like just to help you plan, but I think it helps make it less nerve wracking and less like daunting because when you're trying to plan it for yourself, I think it's easier versus when you're just trying to plan a wedding and it's not 100%. Like, it's not tailored to you because you're going to be more excited about it when it's actually stuff you're excited about.
And when it's you, like, it's not going to be stressful too.
Well, it will
Like
be a little
things
bit.
just- well,
but
I don't know. I think that's a whole other episode we can talk about is like not being stressed on
yeah.
your
Oh,
wedding day.
yeah.
Because I think that's a big kind of fits into aesthetic. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for listening. We'll be back again next week. And if you have any topics or ideas for us that you'd like us to talk on, whether it's photography or wedding planning or both, let us know. And
slide in our DMs.
yes, please.
In a not a creepy way.
Yeah, literally. We'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.